Let's be honest, momming is hard. I'm doing my very best, and I know you are too. We fail, we make mistakes, we fall. But that's okay because we get back up. We learn from our past and we keep moving forward. We want to uplift and encourage one another today and learn from fellow moms. Welcome to Everyday Christian Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Lysandra Osterkamp. Everyday Christian Mom is a show for regular, everyday moms like you from a regular, everyday mom like me. Hey, we're in this together. Welcome to episode 22 of the Everyday Christian Mom Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to look at the importance of family meetings. Our family has frequent family meetings. We feel that they're vital to the success of our family's relationships. And as many of you know, my husband and I have a podcast that we host together entitled The Family Meeting Podcast. So obviously, we think they're pretty important, don't we? We're all about the family meetings. But today I want to share with you the reasons why we believe that family meetings are really important and that they can be beneficial to your family. And I want to share some ideas of what your family meetings can look like. So let's talk about that a little bit today. In a perfect world, we would have a family meeting every day. Now, I know we're like the family meeting people. We're Thomas and Lysandra Osterkamp, the family meeting people. But we don't have family meetings every day. That's our goal, that's our aim, but it doesn't always happen. And I'm sure that that's what you would like ultimately. You probably love to be able to have a family meeting with your family every day. Schedules gets crazy. Life is full. Everyone's busy. And it can be very difficult. So yes, there are times when we don't have a family meeting every day. Now, there's times when we have a family meeting maybe just once a week, depending on the busy season or when we have people over and other things are going on. But it is a beautiful thing if you can have a family meeting every day of the week, but it's not always practical. So keep that in mind. Don't set the bar so high that you make yourself crazy and stress yourself out. Especially if your family is like mine. My family's growing up. I've got teenagers. I have teenagers who are beginning to work and have their own schedules and be in sports and things like that. So you've got to take that into account. So whether or not you can have a family meeting every single day, I strongly encourage you to strive to have a family meeting and at least have it be a part of your regular routine somehow, whatever that looks like in your home. And maybe you're starting to introduce family meetings into your home, and it's a new thing. Nobody gets it yet. You can just shoot for that once a week. Just go for that, aim for that, and see how it goes. Ultimately, the amount of family meetings you have is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you are connecting with your family intentionally, and you're recentering your family, and you're making your family a priority. That's what's really important. And I know as a mom, we all want daddy to be the one to lead a family meeting. We want him to lead the home and the family, especially in the area of spiritual growth. And it's important to keep in mind that not every man is ready to take on that role of leader in your home and family, and that's okay. You cannot make your husband be who you want him to be, just like you really can't be exactly maybe who your husband wants you to be. That's okay. Let each grow at their own pace. Leave it to God. He can handle it. If your husband hasn't quite grown to that kind of leader yet, it's okay for you to step in and organize and lead your family meetings, even though you're the mom, okay? It's okay. You may even have to have family meetings with just you and your kids. Daddy isn't a part of them. Of course, there are circumstances like firefighters who work 48 hours, military men who work overseas, and mom's home with the kids. Are we not going to have a family meeting just because dad isn't there? Of course not. We are going to step in and we're going to take the lead. Maybe your husband is home. Maybe he's just in the other room watching TV. That's okay. He can watch TV and you can have a family meeting. And then you take that to God and you begin to pray that the Lord will work on his heart and that God will draw him into your family meetings. So let me tell you how family meetings started in the Osterkamp home. When Catherine, my oldest, who is now 17 years old, was a baby, I so badly wanted Thomas, my husband, to call us all together. I wanted him to turn off the TV and lead a family meeting. And that just wasn't who he is. He wasn't that way at the time. He didn't have that example growing up. He didn't really necessarily understand that it had to be a habit and needed to get into the routine. And he was a hardworking youth pastor, okay? So he was like godly. He loved the Lord. But by the time he got home, he was exhausted. All he wanted to do was veg out on the TV for the few minutes we had at home before we fell asleep. We didn't have a few hours before we fell asleep back then. We had minutes. It was like get home, have supper, watch TV for a few, like maybe 20 minutes, and then fall asleep. That's the life we led at that time. But I wanted more. Rather than continuously nag him to start family meetings, which by the way, that is what I did in the beginning. I would ask him like, can't we read the Bible with Catherine? Like, let's sit down and talk. Let's turn off the TV. And he's like, no, I'm tired. And finally I gave up on that. It didn't take me long, but I gave up on that. I realized this is not working. And so I just decided I'm going to do it myself. I would sit down on the couch with Catherine, my tiny little baby. She was probably at this point about 4 months, maybe 5. And I would read her a little Bible story from her little Bible storybook that had all the pictures and so cutesy and everything. She loved it. And she would, of course, try to like put the book in her mouth and all that good stuff. Oh my goodness, I miss those days really bad. You know how it is like when you talk about it and you kind of all of a sudden put yourself back in those old situations. And it's like all of a sudden your heart is yearning for those babies again. But I guess I'll just have to wait till grandkids now. But there we were sitting on the couch reading the Bible, and then we'd do our little prayer together, and I would tell her I'd love her, and then I would take her back into our bedroom where Thomas would be watching TV and let him kiss her goodnight and everything, and then put her to bed. And that was the start of our family meetings. That was how they started. But I think it was honestly only the second night when Thomas saw that Catherine and I were doing our little family devotions again out on the couch, and he came and sat down with us. He turned off that TV and came and sat down with us. He didn't say anything. There was no like big conversation or like, wow, light bulb moment. He didn't come in and take the lead and become like the leader of the family meetings. He just participated. He sat there and then he took a turn and prayed. And then we both kissed Catherine goodnight and put her to bed. And I was so excited when he came out and joined us. It was wonderful. All right, fast forward 17 years. We have 4 daughters. Right now they are 17, 15, 14, and 12. And to this day, my husband is still not the one to initiate a family meeting. He just doesn't think of it. He believes in them. He believes that they're important, but he forgets to do it. And one thing that I strive to remember is that he doesn't keep any of the routines or schedules in our family. That's my job. So it makes sense that I would also be the one who initiates the family meetings. Now, sometimes I might like whisper in his ear, hey, honey, we need to have a family meeting. Let's call the girls in. And then he calls the girls in. But he's got to have that reminder. He's never going to remember on his own. Just like he wouldn't remember any of our meetings or doctor's appointments or anything else on the schedule. That's not his thing in our family. That's my thing. So I do that. So what I want to encourage you to, moms, is don't be too hard on daddy if he isn't leading in this way yet. You do what you know you need to do and let God grow him in God's timing. It's really hard to wait on God's timing, isn't it? But it's the best way, trust me. So just wait on God's timing. Pray for your husband. Be the example and be loving and kind. Then things can maybe turn around eventually. Now, as you begin your family meeting, don't be afraid to have fun, okay? Everybody knows I'm the fun police. I'm the boring one. I'm the one who's all business. Allow this family meeting that you're going to have to be an uplifting time for the whole family. It doesn't have to be all business, no fun. Okay, so maybe you're going to joke around a little bit with the kids. Maybe you're going to tease one of your daughters about some boy. That often happens in our family meetings and they get all red and they're like, come on, guys. So whatever is fun for you guys. You could have a game in your family meeting where maybe it's on a topic or a Bible verse or whatever. It could be anything, but don't be afraid to have fun. There's no wrong way to do a family meeting, okay? You can do a children's book. Like, think about where your kids are at, because really this is about you trying to connect with your family, breed closeness, and center around the Word of God. So you could do a children's book. You could read a chapter of the Bible a day. You could read one verse of the Bible a day. For our family, we have done some like teen girl devotions before, which is of course fun for my husband, but he gets it. He's in a house full of girls, so this is what we do. We've done all kinds of varieties of different things. So whatever you do, you're not going to mess it up. Just do something. One of my favorite things is to pick a Bible verse about a topic that's come up organically that week or that day. And I recommend too that you not always stick to the plan. Okay, I'm a big person with the plan. Oh my gosh. I gotta let the plan go. Perfectionists out there, all of you perfectionist moms, you gotta let the plan go. I know, I don't even like to say it, honestly. I don't like to say it out loud, but we do. Okay, rather than always sticking to the plan, keep things relevant to your kids and relationships in your family, all right? What's happening in your life right now? What is your child struggling with? What is the family struggling with? What are you struggling with? Okay, for instance, one of my daughters asked me a question about how to lead someone to Jesus. Like, how do you start the conversation? She said. And that's when I knew our family meeting that evening would be about how to start a conversation with someone about Jesus. And that topic lasted for like 5 family meetings. On the first night, we talked about how to bring up the conversation. And then each night after that, each girl practiced talking about Jesus to Thomas or myself. And we took turns pretending to be a friend who doesn't know Jesus. And it was a really great experiment. It was they learned a lot. The kids learned a lot, but also we all had fun and kind of made it a little bit goofy too. But I think that the girls did learn a lot about how to talk to someone about Jesus. So it was also beneficial. And maybe your child asks you a question about money and savings and spending. Maybe they ask you about friends and how to make new friends. Maybe one of your kids wants to know if they're allowed to go on a date. Now, those are all kind of older scenarios. Maybe you have a child who's younger and they are hitting their brother or sister over a toy and they don't know how to share yet, or we don't know how to wait our turn, or whatever. Whatever's happening in your life, let your family meeting be about that thing. That's when it's going to be relevant. And relevant is the most important thing. Whatever comes up organically in life should be quickly turned into a family meeting. Keep in mind that relevance is more important than sticking to a plan. One great idea that we've done in our family meeting is to allow one of our daughters to lead a family meeting. So each of our daughters have had the opportunity to choose a topic and a Bible verse or a passage, whatever they want, that talks about their topic, and then they ask the family questions. And it's really fun for them to get to be the leader. This brings me to the next part of a family meeting that I think is really good and that we do in our home. And this is personal questions. I think it might be one of the most important parts of family meetings, actually. When we go around the room and we answer a question for ourselves personally, that brings the conversation to each individual. You know how easy it is if you're sitting at church or you're reading your Bible or whatever and just be like, oh yeah, so-and-so really needed that. Or you just breeze through it. It kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Nothing sticks. This is where it sticks. We bring it down to the individual. It makes us examine our own hearts. It makes it personal. Whatever you choose to do for your family meetings, make sure that each family member gets an opportunity to share their opinion, thoughts, perspective, and stories on the subject. You may be surprised what you can learn from your children. All right, what about this? This is a hard one, ladies. All right, are you ready, moms? Be transparent yourself. Ooh, this is hard. I remember the first time that I realized that it wasn't normal to be transparent as a mom with my daughters. And I was telling a friend a story about how I was telling, I think it was my oldest, Catherine, about an area that I struggled and that I asked my daughter for prayer. And this was probably back when Catherine was like 14 years old. And the mom was like, you talked to your daughter about that? And I was like, yeah, why? And she goes, oh, I've not heard of that. So then I started kind of listening and paying attention. And I think it is pretty rare for moms to be vulnerable with their kids and say like, hey, I have a real struggle in the area of pride. It's something God's working on me. But how valuable is that to be honest and transparent with your kids? I will tell my children, I have a problem with my body issues. Like I have a problem accepting my body. And so I will share that with my girls and tell them, like, I'm having a particularly hard day today, and this is why. So I'm just praying that God will change my heart and help me through this. So I want to encourage you to be transparent yourself in your family meetings. One time I had to share in one of our family meetings how a friend had hurt me and I was trying to forgive her. I knew she didn't do it on purpose. It was something careless she said that hurt me, and I explained I had two options. I had to forgive her with divine help and totally let it go, or have a conversation with her about it, like we see in Matthew 15:18 about going to the person, telling them how they offended you, and eventually reconciling. And I didn't want to make this a big thing. It was so little. So I was just praying that God would take it away from me and I could forgive her, so that I didn't have to make it a whole big, like, hey, you've offended me thing. So I shared this with my girls and with my husband at my family meeting and talked about how I really needed to work on this, and can you pray for me? And then we talked about other situations like this in the girls' friendships or in Thomas's, because this is bound to happen for them too. But we can never use our own opportunities to teach our children unless we are transparent. So be transparent in your family meetings. Another part of your family meeting should be affirmation. Phrases like, that's a great thought, or I hadn't thought of it that way, good point. These are phrases you can say to your children to encourage them to speak up. Show them that you value their opinion and help them believe that they have something valuable to say. If they don't hear encouraging affirmations like this, most likely they're going to close up and they won't talk to you anymore. They won't participate in the family meetings. So make sure that you are affirming the things that they say as they say them. Your family meeting should always end in an outpouring of love from you as a mom to your children. Now, sometimes our family meetings have to be a time of correction and reminding behaviors and attitudes. I mean, we're talking about relevance, right? So in those family meetings, when we're correcting behaviors, attitudes, or whatever it may be, they can be a little less pleasant, right? And we never end our family meetings until reconciliation has been made. Keep that in mind. So if I have to correct one daughter on the way that she's speaking to another daughter, and we're all aware of it, we're examining scriptures on the topic, like Proverbs 16:21, the wise heart is called discerning, and sweetness of speech increases persuasiveness. Or maybe Colossians 4:6, I love this one. Let your speech be always gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Or some other passage about allowing your speech to edify and uplift. We'll focus on that. But then I make sure, before we adjourn the family meeting, that all my daughters are in good standing with myself and her sisters. The apologies have to be made, the hugs have to be taken, the forgiveness given, the eventual, okay, I understand, Mom. I know, I'm going to work on this, whatever. But getting back to that reconciliation before we call the end of the family meeting, even if that means that the meeting has to go a little bit longer. By the end of the family meeting, we should all be hugging it out, saying I love you, and saying goodnight. You'll notice most of our family meetings take place in the evening because soon as we are out of bed, the ball is rolling and we're all going in different directions. So mornings don't really work for us. But having a family meeting is a great way to invest in your children and your spouse. It brings connection. Family meetings will keep you close. Family meetings will open windows into your children's lives. Having family meeting tells your children that you care enough about them to put the phone down, turn off the TV, and give them real quality attention and time. Family meetings bring a focus to the Word of God and to our relationship with Him. I mean, we want to show our kids that God and the Bible are important enough to us personally to set aside time for it. You'll never look back when your children are grown and gone and say, man, I wish I hadn't wasted so much time on family meetings. That's never, ever going to be something you say. I have, however, already in my heart now thought, I wish I had spent more time and been more consistent with family meetings in my home. I've already felt that way, and my oldest is 17, youngest 12. But listen, moms, it's not too late to start. Every day is a clean slate. Isn't that beautiful? This evening, call a family meeting. Tell your children your goal is to have a family meeting every day, every other day, or once a week, whatever your goal is. Share with them your goals for the family meetings and what they're going to look like. Remember, have excitement and make them fun. They don't always have to be heavy. Don't waste any time beating yourself up over not having had family meetings in the past. Give yourself the same grace you would give to any other mom. Regrets should not become debilitating memories of our past, but rather teachers of lessons to benefit our future. Now, we want to end today's episode with a little mom motivation. Keep in mind this week, as you are momming, that family meetings are a worthwhile investment in your children. Remember that every day is a new day and a clean slate to start a new good habit. Keep that in mind as you mom this week. We're all out of time now. Thanks for listening in to Everyday Christian Mom. Join me next time as we discuss how to help your daughters accept the way they look. And as I already said earlier, this is an issue that I have personally had, and so it's come up a lot in our home, and I already see it in my children. Now, this issue can affect both boys and girls. They can both struggle with it. So how can we moms help them through this? We'll talk about that next time. Take time to share this episode on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to Everyday Christian Mom from your preferred podcast provider. Help me share the news with your friends that there's a community of moms here to support them. Momming is hard, but we're in this together. I wish all of you fabulous moms a very, very peaceful day. Goodbye for now. All right. Thank you everyone on YouTube for watching and joining in. I'm sure that you've had these situations where it's really hard to be consistent with a family meeting, but I want to encourage you to make a goal to start even today with a family meeting. And even if you can't do it every single day, shoot for once a week and see how you do. It's better to try than to not try at all. So even if you get a couple family meetings in, it will benefit your family. And I think you'll really enjoy them. I know that we do. Thanks so much for listening in and watching today on Everyday Christian Mom. I hope you have a great week.